Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today we are taking a look at this knife from CRKT. This is the Caligo. It's a TJ Schwartz design and it is a really nice looking design. Probably one of the most attractive knives from CRKT that I've seen in some time. And actually the design doesn't stop just at looks. This is actually a really well thought out knife overall. And we'll try to touch on some of those little things that have been done right here as we kind of work our way through the knife. Now, there are some things that I'm going to take an issue with, and you can probably already guess what those are, but I'll let you figure those things out as we go along. So let's start off with size and weight. 7 5/8 inches overall, 3 3/16 on the blade, 4.5 inches on the handle, and 3.36 ounces, which is not very heavy at all. So when this knife is closed and in your pocket, it is very comfortable. You really don't even know you've got it. So in terms of, how this carries, really good. Okay, great for an EDC knife. It's even small and light enough that you could use it as sort of a gentleman's knife in a pair of dress pants or something. Really good on size and weight. Let's though go ahead and talk about the blade. And guess what? Pretty much everything that I have a problem with on this knife is going to be in the blade, even though I still like the overall design. But let's hit the stuff I don't like first. So I don't like the black coating because black coatings always wear. And a knife at this price point, this is not a collector's item that you're going to be putting in a safe somewhere. This is a knife you're going to use and carry and abuse, and that coating is going to look really bad, probably quite quickly. All right. The other thing I don't like is the steel, and that is CRKT MOV. It's not the worst steel that's ever been invented. Okay. It's not just some kind of garage sale stainless steel that you've never even heard of. But at this time, there are enough better steels out there, especially in the budget price range, that I feel like this should be in something a little better than CRKT MOV. So those are the big two complaints I have. Otherwise, though, if we get back to talking about the performance of the blade, it's not bad at all. Okay, I like the design. I love the hollow grind. I like the top swedge. I think it ties in well with the rest of the knife. It's a useful shape. You're getting quite a bit of cutting edge here. It's still less than I'd like to see, but you have 3 1/4 inches of cutting edge, which is actually more than the blade length. You can see how it kind of extends past there at the bottom a little bit. So in actual use, in terms of, a light use EDC folder, this is great. Okay. The reality is that CR13, although it's not a fantastic steel in terms of edge retention and corrosion resistance, it's not bad. And it's going to be more than adequate for most knife users. Okay. There's going to be the odd person who, I don't know, cuts down like 500 boxes every single day. And yeah, it's not going to hold up to that kind of use. But for everyone else who takes out their knife and does 3 or 4 cuts every day, it's going to be more than adequate. Let's go ahead now and talk about lockup and deployment. By the way, this is a bit of an aside. I got to say, I like that pivot collar there. Anyway, this is a liner lock knife with a flipper mechanism, and I'll show you that right now. There you go. And if you flip it over, you can see that it does have IKBS bearings. So in terms of action, this knife is really good. It's drop shut. It's nice and smooth. It's, for a CRKT, and really even for a much more expensive knife, I would be more than happy with this action. And so I've definitely got to give a lot of credit to CRKT for getting the action on this really right. Let's notice some of the details that make that work the way we want it to. Number one, the flipper tab has a little bit of jimping. You can see it there, I think. Let me get there we go. And the corners are, sharp enough that you can get a hold of it, but not uncomfortable. So that means, you can easily flip this all day and all night without getting that sore finger that some flipper tabs will give you. The other thing is they've made this lock bar nice and accessible. You can see it's reasonably early lockup, but notice that I don't have to fight to get my thumb in there. I can just easily come across, grip that lock bar and push it over very comfortably, very easily. The other thing is it's nice and smooth and the detent is set right where you want it. So all of those little things come together to make this a very nice action. And honestly, it feels wrong saying a very nice action on a CRKT, but honestly, it is really nice. Okay, so I've definitely got to give this knife some credit for getting that right. They also got the construction right. I really like, that's where we want to go next anyway. So I really like the way that they've built this. We've got aluminum handles, aluminum backspacer, nested stainless steel liners. And I really like that they've gone to the extra energy to get those nested liners in there so they don't detract from the overall look at all. I love the blue pivot collar here. We've got Torx construction all the way along. If you look over here at the pocket clip, it's a nice deep carry bent over clip, which works really, really well. And notice that the screws here, let me turn it, come on, focus you. There we go. Notice that the screws are nice and flush so they don't get in the way of your, of the knife going into your pocket. How many knives have you seen with a bent over clip like this where the screws want to catch on your pants? And so they've got these nicely flush, and that is really, really nice. In terms of ergonomics, I really, really like this. The only complaint I have is right here, and I'll show you. I do get a decent 4-finger grip on this knife, but in a saber grip, my thumb lands right up about here, and I don't have enough. So they've got some jimping here, and it wants me to put my thumb right there, but that's not where it lands. My thumb actually lands up here. So it would have been nice to have a bit of a landing strip up here where my thumb could have some purchase, and for them to have continued this jimping right along. That would have been really, really appreciated. And that's one of the, what would you say here? That's one of the conditions of just the overall size of this knife. And that's the last thing that I'm not in love with. This is just a little small for me. You guys know I like larger knives. One, they're a little more hand filling, and one, I like that extra blade length in terms of just its utility. And this knife, I love this design so much. It's an absolute win. If it was, you know, just a little bit bigger, I would be, you know, just totally, totally in love with it. But it's very, very good, even at this size. And guys, I'm going to tell you, I'm biased against knives of this size, okay? Generally, I don't like them and I wouldn't even buy them. This one, I loved the design enough that I wanted to try it out. And even now as I'm using it and reviewing it, I still like this knife, even though it is too small for me to carry, okay? And that's a hard, I'm really hard to win over when it comes to size. That really puts me off. By the way, they've done a good job on the little lanyard hole there. So overall, guys, I'm pretty darn impressed with this knife, even despite its fairly small size. Now, I know a number of you like knives in this category more than in the 8-inch plus category, which is what I prefer. Let's go ahead and grab some comparisons before we wrap things up here. So first off, here's a Kershaw Knockout, similar in size, of course, better steel and a little more costly, but aluminum knife. So I thought they were kind of similar. Even the size is similar. Again, the Knockout is a little bit bigger, more in the size range that I appreciate. I do have another CRKT here. This is the CRKT Maven. Mike Rogers, or maybe Richard Rogers design on this guy. A little bit bigger again, and I like the size on this a little bit better, but I definitely prefer the design on the Caligo. What else have we got here? I don't have a whole huge number of liner lock knives, but here's a Kaiser Kala. You can see similar design here with the nested stainless steel liners. Even the color scheme is similar on this knife with the blue backspacer. This is more in the size range that I like, guys. And this is a pretty nice knife. Of course, they're not in the same price category either. I think this guy's probably, I don't know, around 80 bucks, and this guy's probably under 40. All right. What else have we got? Here's a Spyderco Manix 2 Lockback. Love this knife. This one is not in the same category at all, but I thought most people are familiar with the size of the Manix. Got another knife here, Rat Model 1. Again, very common knife, great budget knife, liner lock design. Now, here's a good example. This is a great, highly functional knife, but this knife has just a little more thoughtfulness to it. It's a little more attractive, and it just seems like there's been a little more attention to detail paid on the design than over here on the Rat Model 1. Now, I know the Rat Model 1 is meant to be just, sort of a working knife, and it definitely does a great job of that. One last knife that I'll throw in here, and that is just a Gonzo, because I feel like, if you're looking at really budget knives, it's hard to beat. This happens to be the 760. Now, by the way, I find this color combination absolutely hideous. Well, I find this one to be highly, highly attractive. Okay, so what's my overall take on this knife, guys? Definitely a win, okay? The design is exceptional. The overall implementation of that design is really, really well done. There are a couple little nitpicks that I had. Of course, if any blade that has a black coating like this, I'm going to comment on. Any blade that's an 8CR13 MOV, I'm going to comment on. Really, the biggest, sort of issue for me, and maybe this wouldn't be true of everyone. If you had small hands, this might not be a problem, but I wish this thumb ramp was extended up so that in a saber grip, I had a little more real estate for my thumb. All right, but yeah, I think this is an absolute win. Definitely the best knife from CRKT for this year, and I'd like to see this in a better steel, and even in a larger size. Let's do a Caligo 2 in 14C28N with a satin blade and slightly larger. If you're watching CRKT, that would be sort of a dream come true. Thanks for watching, you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know what you think of this knife in the comments down below. We will talk to you soon.